Strike Back Season 4, Episode 4. Now, I'm glad that I'm not over a week late. Like, I'm almost a week late with this one, but this was a really freaking cool episode. Like, it was way cooler than I was expecting. I thought it's going to be simple enough. They're going to figure out that May is actually, the villain. And, typical Strike Back craziness ensues. But it's like, they get the one girl actually gives herself up. That was a surprise to me that she was actually working for May. I was like, okay, well, she's just gonna, they're gonna figure it out. Like, she's not giving us anything, and I figured they'd get the results back, and that's what was gonna happen. And then it was an even smaller twist. It didn't really do much for the story, but it was still different than what I was expecting, where she did decide to give them up, which meant she was technically working for them, and that completely surprised me. Like, it was a smaller moment, because it still ended up being the same thing where they did ultimately find out the truth because of the toxicology report, which I figured. But it was still a little bit different. It's like, oh, she was actually working with them. She wasn't completely innocent like I was expecting. So that was a nice little surprise. Her getting killed off was pretty surprising, but at the same time, it didn't do anything. I knew, Stonebridge's friend was going to get killed, and I was like, that really sucks. And unfortunately, that did happen. I thought he was going to get killed just going up the stairs. I thought they might have like suppressors or something on their guns maybe, and he would just be shot right on the steps. But he gets killed, unfortunately. They have a typical cool firefight, which they definitely had several amazing firefights this episode, which is nothing new. Just a bunch of craziness throughout. Just like three separate just battles in this episode, which were pretty nuts. Like every single one of them had like a really insane moment apiece. And that one, I think, started with a crazy moment with his friend unfortunately being killed. And then they're just trapped, in the different areas being surrounded and stuff. So that was a really cool fight. Then they go to May, and it's like, alright, so we have, while all this craziness is going on, Scott goes to meet his son Finn, and then they do get followed, which was something I was wondering, like, is he going to end up in a firefight with his son? And so he's being followed while they're being tracked at the house. He has to escape. They end up in the jungle the whole freaking episode, which unfortunately ends with his son having a gun pointed at him towards the end. But we got a little bit of interaction between them, which I enjoyed, and it was kind of what you would expect. His son was kind of mad at him, like, my mom got pregnant and you took off, and that's pretty much the only story. You didn't come back like once and then leave again. You were just gone, and I never even really met you. Like, I'm sure you've seen pictures and stuff, and that's really about it. But, they got that interaction. Then and I love when Scott told him, he was like, this and this, and he's like, Sergeant Damien Scott and all that, and he's like, I don't believe you, and he went through it, and he was like, it's obvious that you're actually a drug dealer. And it was funny, because I was like, that actually makes sense, because if you came into it, and it's like, oh yeah, you were this, and this, all these crazy spy things, from army to, super spy, it's like, logically, you're going to be like, you have this much money in cash, you got people coming after you, you sell drugs, and you screwed something up. And it was funny, like, I never would have really thought of that, because I'm just watching the show, but from like a random outside view, you take all the real information out, and this is just the guy who totally ditched your mom when she was pregnant with you. You aren't going to believe that he was like this amazing good guy. It's like, no, you're a drug dealer, and that's it. Like, sure, the IT thing may have been fake, but I'm definitely going to believe drug dealer over, you're a soldier. For all these, all this time you've been a soldier going into CIA, and now, basically being a soldier / spy. And it was kind of funny, like, that actually makes a lot of sense that he'd think that. And I just thought it was kind of cool. It was a funny little moment. And I'm excited to see them have more interactions in the next episode once they kind of get out of all the craziness. And based on the preview, that definitely does happen. The team kind of gets together, which was really what I loved about this episode. It did split them up. And it was like, alright, they were split up in the last episode too, but it was really different in this, because it was like Scott was just like not a part of the team at all in this episode, because they had no idea where he was. And it's him and his son in the jungle, trying to escape from these guys, hiding under waterfalls, which I actually thought that was a really cool scene. Hiding under waterfalls, hiding in trees at the end of the episode, and all this stuff. And it was just really cool. And then the rest of the team is like, alright, we have to find him. They couldn't get to him in time, and then they had to get to May because she took off. And so it was like, we have to regroup, and he'll just have to be wherever he is. And then they go to the, final fight scene, and I guess I shouldn't skip over the middle scene, where Stonebridge and Richmond go to like the car dealership, and so we meet the two big drug dealers that come into play, and basically, in the preview, they end up saving Stonebridge, which really surprised me. And it was like, I don't know how that's gonna play out, or if he's gonna lie. He can't really lie. He's head to toe camo. It's obvious that he's like military or something. So it's not like he can be like, yeah, they screwed me over in a drug deal too. So I'm not sure how that's gonna play out, but I'm very interested. And I don't know if based on that preview, it makes me change their character, change what I think about them, because maybe they're like deep undercover, and that's how that's working out. And it's like they didn't want to get shot by accident or be held up when it's like they're gonna hold us up thinking we're actual drug dealers when they should be doing whatever it is, whatever mission they have, because we're basically on the same side. So that little snippet for the next episode kind of instantly makes me think that. But I did like their introductions. Like, the one guy was kind of respectful, and the other guy's just like, he just throws his glasses down. It's like, where's your boss, and this and that. So I like their characters, and when they kind of team up at the end, and like the one guy, and that's what makes me think that as well, because when he took the gun from the guy, it's like, all right, him taking the gun from somebody, that's like one thing. Like, you could learn that. But the way he held the gun was like, it was like seeing Scott and Stonebridge just would play by different people for a second, and he like takes the gun, the other guy jumps and kicks the guy in the leg and knocks him out. And then he's like looking through the scope and holding it perfectly and everything. It's like, who are these guys coming out of nowhere? And it's just like he went right into the perfect stance. I was like, I don't think they're just drug dealers. So, that added with the little snippet for the next episode kind of makes me think that for sure. But I did like them. And then the stuff with Mei and Shiro was very interesting in this episode, especially the introduction of Shiro's father, who was in it for about a minute. I believe it was like a minute and a half maybe. And he gets decapitated by his own son, who blames everything on Section 20, which I thought about like halfway through, because I wasn't thinking about it initially, but when he was training by himself, doing like the Bushido with his katana, I was like, didn't they think it was really weird that he was decapitated, or did he just like hide that entire fact? Like, oh, they killed him, and he like wrapped his body up or something. Like, did he do like all this preparation by himself so no one could actually see the body, or what was happening? Because it's like, if these are Section 20, they know they're a section of the government that are like military. They aren't going to come in and decapitate somebody. Like, that's not what they're going to waste time doing during a mission. They might shoot you in the head, but they won't take your head off. So it didn't make a lot of sense when I actually thought about it. Like, it's clear his head was just chopped clean off. It wasn't like a giant bullet just went through and his head was like, and popped clean off. So, I'm sure we won't get an explanation. It'll just be a weird thing that kind of doesn't make sense, but that kind of stood out to me a little when I actually saw him training. Like, oh yeah, he used a katana. It's going to be like a clean slice, just like a line on this guy's head. It would be super obvious that the government, or a section of the government, didn't come in and do that specifically. But however he played it off, he did it well, and he got his people involved. And then, his second in command gets shot in the hand during the crazy second fight, which was really cool when they go in there. And they're just walking in, and it's simple and stuff. And Stonebridge is just like, Richmond on my left. And she just like shoots those two guys. And it was super calm and everything. And as soon as the guy like puts his hands up, he just shoots him straight in the hand. Which was one of two sort of interesting shots used in this episode. Because he did that. And then towards the end of the episode, Richmond shot like the accountant guy like right in the foot. Just, I didn't think it needed to happen. But he shot the guy in the hand and she shot the other dude in the foot. And it's just like, man, it's just kind of, it does throw you off. Like, I got to get stuff done. I need to be 100% sure you're paying attention. Just, boom, a warning shot into you. So I actually thought those were cool little moments. I was really freaked out based on the way they shot the scene with Richmond having like a full body shot, and it was like pseudo slow motion. Because whenever they do that, it freaks me out. Like, that's kind of how they show people when they're about to be shot. And I was real freaked out. And I was thinking that early on in this episode, when Scott and Richmond were talking, I'm like, I'm really freaked out that she might die off in this season, because it would be like a relationship thing, and then it would just be sad and depressing. Like, holy crap, that just freaking happened. And I would hate for it to take place, and I really hope it doesn't. but I feel like she's the person where it would have the most effect right now, aside from maybe Scott and Stonebridge, who are obviously the main characters. But that's kind of why they don't have that. It's just like, how are they going to get out of it? But for everyone else, it's like they could die because they're main characters, but not the two main characters. And it scares me every episode she's in a fight or anything. I'm like, I don't want her to die, and I'm really freaked out that she might. And hopefully no one does. I would love it if this season ended and not a single person got killed off, because we haven't had a single season where someone didn't die. At first we had two people, like early on we had the one woman, then we had the leader in the finale. Season 2 we lost one member, but we didn't lose the new leader, and then season 3 we lost the new leader, sort of like halfway through, and also Stonebridge lost his wife in the last season. And so I'm hoping that everyone just freaking survives. We also lost there were two other guys, and I forgot. I was thinking of I think we lost both of them. I think we lost. I'm trying to remember. I can't really remember which seasons. It's just like sadness and people freaking dying all over the place. I believe that the black guy died in season 2, and then the other guy died in the last season, really early on. I think he died in maybe like the 3rd or 4th episode of the last season. So we lost like everyone from that initial team, except for 3 people, and that's Scott, Stonebridge, and Richmond. So I'm really hoping they all survive, and the other 2 members that we have, because we only have 2 other freaking members. So hopefully everyone lives. But every time I see Richmond in like any sort of firefight, and especially just how she was standing up for a long time, I'm like, she's gonna get shot and she's just exposed. And I was real freaked out. But fortunately, that all played out really well, and she survived. And then we had the final scene, which was just insane. Like, it was just a cool setup to that scene. Like, they're going up to the place. It's not the full team. They got 4 members instead of their 5-man team. So they're going in. Shiro's having his meeting with the leaders and stuff. Then everything kind of goes down when Stonebridge and Martinez come in contact, and the guy, of course, one person gets shot. Is like, oh, bullets flying. So I knew that was the beginning. Then we got a really awesome fight between Shiro and Stonebridge. I love that fight scene. I wish it lasted a bit longer. I kind of wish they used weapons more, and that's what I was really hoping for. But I think we might just get that later in the season. He fortunately did escape. Well, fortunately for himself, as the villain, it's like meh. But he escaped. He did get shot by one of his own people. That guy, if that guy doesn't get killed by Stonebridge and the drug dealers in the next episode, if he lives, Shiro's gonna chop his head off, I think, because he was mad in the middle of the episode and he was like punching those 2 random guys. He'll definitely kill the guy that shot him by accident just in the middle of all the madness. But he does escape. Stonebridge, gets trapped. It was just really awesome to see the team get broken up like that. I actually thought it was a really cool dynamic that we haven't seen before, where it was, it wasn't like, oh, Scott and Stonebridge are separated. It's like the whole team was kind of split up. Like, Damien's off with his son in the jungle, which no one else really knows what's happening. Stonebridge is now trapped, and then the rest of the team is out in the water, like, where the heck are both these guys? Because we don't know what's happening. We couldn't get back to him. He couldn't get to us. We lost both villains. We couldn't find May because everything went crazy, so he left the room. Which was fortunate, because I really thought she definitely had one up on him, because she was prepared for him to come into the room. But everything kind of worked out, and I'm just excited for this next episode to see how everything really comes together, how the team kind of regroups by the end. And also we find out the big deal that's happening in it's that North Korea is actually going to get full-on missiles, and there'll be an actual threat, which currently, in real life, it's like, it's North Korea missiles, really. But in this, it's like they're going to get what they need to have, like, actual missiles to attack the U.S. and Europe and be a true devastating power in the nuclear war, or in, if they wanted to start a nuclear war. And it was interesting. I was like, that's pretty cool that's, we got to see the end game. It's like they want to be a part of the nuclear arms race, and this would actually allow them to be the big deal. So it was an interesting, like, typically I think everything that's happened, with it all being terrorism, it is sort of focused in reality in general. I think this is probably the most current they've had, where it's like actually North Korea and missile stuff, which is, I guess, pseudo old at this point for news. But that had to be like at the time they were filming, it was like actually going on, like North Korea and them and missiles and stuff. Even when it first started, it was kind of just like, it's North Korea. They don't have anything. But, it's just very current, and I actually thought that was pretty cool. I think that this one's tied in the most to anything that we've actually experienced as far as real-life terrorism stuff goes. But I'm excited for the next episode, which actually only premieres tomorrow because, of course, super behind. But I love this episode, of course. I want to know what you guys thought about this one. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I definitely want to know what you guys think about the team kind of being split up the way that it was in this episode. Because I can't really remember a time where only one person has really been split up from the rest of the entire team, except for a couple of rare moments like in the middle of the missions. But this was like the whole episode. Scott was totally separated. And then Stonebridge is separated for quite some time, and it seemed like he got back to his team, but none of the scenes they showed he was with anyone, but I'm assuming he got back to someone. And he was at least on that truck. He had 2 grenades, but he could have easily just had those left on him. So I don't really know, but I enjoyed it for sure. Like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.